Hello there. There will be a series of 4 vlogs about Museum Negara in Kuala Lumpur. Otherwise, the vlog will be at least 2 hours long. In this series, there will be a narrative about the 4 galleries by Mr. Yee, a volunteer tour guide who gave me a really informative tour of the museum. For Museum Negara, as it's so big, and with 2 other museums attached to it, one can spend up to a day here exploring the museum.
So, welcome to the National Museum. We have 4 galleries. The first gallery is the Prehistoric Gallery. So, in understanding about our prehistoric, what we want to know is to find out when people start to appear around this place. So, if you look at this chart here, you will find that the earliest indications of human existence is in Nya in Sarawak, which is about 40,000 years ago. Here in Peninsula, the earliest indication is in Perak, about 200,000 years ago. But recent discoveries have pushed these dates to a much later date. So, but all those things are still under research, and you just have to wait for when it's more firmed up, then maybe these things will change again. Because archaeological things will always change based on new discoveries. So, in trying to learn about our early prehistoric times, we should also be aware about the movement of the sea levels during prehistoric time. So I'm sure you've heard of the Ice Age. So during the last Ice Age, which occurred about 20,000 years ago, that was when the sea levels dropped to a very low level, about 120 meters below our current level. So when the sea levels drop, obviously the lands were all just one big landform, and this is what we call the Sunda landform. So that's why certain animals, they call it like maybe the Sunda pangolin or whatever. That's where the name comes from. So when this whole thing is just one land mass, you will find that people, animals can actually walk from here to Borneo Island to Sumatra. In Peninsula, you don't find animals like orangutan, rhinoceros, and some other animals. And vice versa, you don't find tigers. But actually, we have found evidence of orangutans here in Peninsular Malaysia. We've actually got fossils, the teeth fossils of orangutans found in Batu Cave and also in Perak. So that tells us that a long time ago, these animals was here in Peninsular Malaysia. But then, at around this time also, the sea levels start to come up. So if you're talking about climate change, sea levels coming up, well, that has already happened. So, in fact, at about the 10,000, 11,000 mark, the sea levels rose up to the current level, but unfortunately it did not stop. It continued to go up, and it reached its peak at about 6,000 to 5,000 level. That was when the sea levels actually rose about 3, maybe 5 meters higher than the current level. So like I said, climate change, sea levels going up, it has happened. And whether it will take place again and how high it will go, that depends on what we can do to mitigate all these things. And hopefully Mother Nature will not add fuel to the fire, which may actually push it up even higher, because it has happened on its own before.
So it went down again after that.
It went down again to the current level. The possibility
So it
of
may-
going up is
so it may
is
go up
already
again.
taking place, because if you look around the region in Bangkok area, Jakarta, Yogyakarta area, certain places the sea levels is already rising up. So all these are early indications that the sea levels is going up. But like I said, whether how high it will go up, that will depend on what kind of mitigating activities that people can take. Because take for example, Singapore, they have 4 terminals, airport terminals, and I believe they are building the 5th T5. So that T5 will be built at least about 3 meters higher than the current level.
Okay.
So you can find out more about it if you go down to their museum downstairs. They share about such things. This one is the Java man, which is the Homo erectus. This is the one that is found in Nia caves. It's a replica. And these are the ones that are found in Gurcha and Kelantan, which you see inside there. It's a whole collection of all the bones. And this one is a modern human skull. So if you come behind differences in the construction of the skull. So if you look at the size of the Homo erectus, the Nia, and the modern human, you can see that the skull
Increase, huh?
compartment is a lot smaller.
Yeah.
So
Our brains have
that
become
tells you,
bigger.
the amount of intelligence that the modern human has. So whether 500,000 years ago, 40,000 years ago, or you and me, we all need food for survival. And when we come and look for food, we will use all kinds of tools. So during the Paleolithic period, which is the time when humans first evolved until about 10,000 years ago, we'll be using stone tools like this. So these stone tools are what is used by all these prehistoric humans to hunt for food, either to skin them, to kill them, and other activities. So if you come over to the next gallery, there is one site which is very important. So this is the time would be this Neolithic age. So at the Neolithic age, which is about 4,000 years ago, you will find that the stone tools is a lot more modern looking. It's like comparing the old Nokia handphones, brick phones, with the modern Samsung phones. You can really see the difference in the technology. Not only do you see a difference in the technology, but you will find that the stone tools are also attached to other implements to make it more useful and more advanced. So you can have much more powerful activities in chopping down things or throwing things a little further away. And also you have a lot of tools that are much more fine, that allows you to do much more intricate and fine handicraft. Okay. So one other aspect about the Neolithic site is also the discovery of ceramic. So ceramics or potteries like this is an indication that tells us that the people that lived during this period of time is in control of fire. Because if you cannot control fire, there is no way you can produce ceramics. Okay? So you must be able to control fire in order to produce ceramics. Then there's also cave paintings. So here in Peninsular Malaysia, there's one very huge cave painting site, which is Gua Tambung in Ipoh. So there's a lot of all these paintings. These paintings do tell us about how knowledgeable these people are. Because if you look at this particular animal, what do you see?
I don't. It's a
Okay.
four-legged animal.
It's a four-legged animal, but you notice that you have the bigger animal here, but you also have a smaller animal inside. So what does...
Pregnant?
Okay. So you can more or less tell that the people here during that time have an understanding about all these
Biology.
biological things. Okay? So it's also important to understand that we're primitive, but at the same time, concurrently in other parts of the world, it is very advanced. Because like if you're talking about the Egyptians and all that, they're already advanced. They already exist like 6,000 years ago, and they already have advanced things, but we are at this stage. So this is like a very general, broad comparison about the different pace of development at different parts of the world. Okay. So you have two types of cave paintings. You have got the charcoal type, and then you've got the hematite. So hematite is the red ones, which you can find in Gua Tambun. So just in case if you're not aware, we actually have our own red cliff here in Perak. So you can see this limestone hill, and it's all reddish in color. So charcoal paintings are usually more recent times, more modern, whereas the ones that are hematite are usually of a much older age. So the next is this diorama of this cave. You will find cave paintings. Then there's also this Perak man skeleton remains. This is only a replica. The original is in Menggong. So what is important about this Perak man discovery is the completeness of his skeletal remains. Most skeletal remains are very little or minimal. You get maybe like 10, 20, maybe not even 50% of the skeletal remains are found. But this one is very complete in the sense that almost like maybe 70-80% of the skeletal remains was found. So that amount of skeletal remains gives us a lot of information, such as medical information like it's been born with a congenital birth defect called brachymesophalangia type A2. Basically, it's a skeletal structure on the left side was rather weak. So because of that, weak and also short, so it had to shift its weight to the right side, and to compensate for the weakness.
Is it nerve related? Nerve related.
It's a birth defect.
Oh.
Okay. So so essentially it's basically a handicapped person. But the interesting thing is this handicapped person managed to survive up to age 40 or 45. In general, most people during that period of time may only survive to 20, maybe 25. But this a handicapped person actually survive until 40, 45. So why that is so? So one possibility is that the community kept him safe from dangerous activities. So that allowed him to live to a ripe old age and possibly also become the wise old man for that community. You know, giving, telling people, what are things that they can do, or sort of like a real, maybe a local shaman or something like that. The shells, 2,000 over snail shells, then different tools, and also food remains. So the way it was buried tells us that this person was very much respected by the community. Bearing in mind this is of a time period that is about 10, 11,000 years ago. So you can see that even during that time period, they really know how to pay respect and respect to this particular person. Metal Age. Here, in this region, we only have two, which is the Bronze Age and the Iron Age. We do not have the Copper Age. So it's very strange because when we talk about archaeological things, we say we don't have Copper Age. But if you look at Malaysia's economic data, we have copper. So why is it that we have copper and then we also don't have copper? So this is where we got to realize what we are talking about. Okay, when we're talking about the prehistoric age, very often we are referring to Peninsula. So as far as Peninsula is concerned, there is no copper. When we say we got copper, that's talking about East Malaysia. So we have the copper mines, the Mammoth copper mines over in East Malaysia. So bronze is actually a mixture of the tin and copper, a little bit of copper. Glass, which is a mixture of tin and zinc. So that's the difference between brass and bronze. They are very similar. So this Bronze Age comes from the discovery of artifacts like this, the Dongsan bronze drums. So these bronze drums are found from a region in Dongsan, Vietnam. And there's also this bells. So these Dongsan drums are found all over the region, not just here, but also in places in Sumatra, Java, and other places.
Can I ask a question? If there's no copper, how did they make this bronze?
This is made in Dongsan, so
Vietnam.
it is not from here. Okay, so these bronze artifacts are actually made in other parts of the
And then
region.
brought here.
Yes. So the very fact that you can find Dongsan bells, Dongsan drums in these lands, Java, Sumatra, that tells us that
Got trade.
trading activities has already started during that period of time. Because without trading, there's no way these drums could have moved to all these places.
Even BC, 3,000 years ago. Wow.
Yeah, it's about. Don't forget, you may think like 3,000 years ago is like the Neolithic time period and all that, but in other parts of the world, like in India and all that, it's already very, very advanced already. Because like in India, in the Indus Valley civilization, about 6,000 years ago, there's very advanced civilization there. So the Indus Valley civilization. So their influence to this part of the region is also very, very great, which we will see later on.
Okay.
So there's also the iron artifacts. Not many iron artifacts are found, but basically they are artifacts like this tools, which we call tulang mawas or ape bones. So basically they resemble the shoulder blade part of the skeletal unit. So you may think that all these things could have been brought in from other places, but they are actually, some of them are actually manufactured from here, because we actually found molds for all these stone tools here. Like this molds are actually found in East Malaysia. Then we also have artifacts like megaliths. Megaliths are basically what we call, the locals would call them as living rocks. Okay, so they believe that they can grow. The only rocks that I know that can actually grow would be the stalactites and stalagmites, which would grow from the deposition of calcite deposit. But one possibility why people might consider these rocks are able to grow is when the soil subsides. So one day you will find that this rock suddenly looks a lot taller than before, maybe because the soil has already subsided to a lower level. Then it looks like, oh, okay, it seems like that rock has taller, it has grown. So that could be one possibility. So basically that's the end of the prehistoric period. Next is the Proto-History Period. So Proto-History is basically a period of time where we do not have our own written records of this place during this time. What we know about this place comes from records made by other people, like the Chinese explorers, Fa Xian, Yi Jing. These people were traveling and going past here on the way to India or maybe Middle East, and they wrote about what they saw here. And there's also interpretations of little artifacts like this. So this particular stone inscribed of Buddha Gupta was made by an Indian merchant who built this when he safely arrived here. So all these inscription stones, artifacts, and discoveries more or less tell us that during this period of time, the religions is very much Hindu, Buddhism in nature. Okay. Range of all these burial goods. So this is a smaller version of the earlier donsong drum that I was telling you about. So this would have been used as part of a burial goods. So donsong drums are also what we call rain drums, because if you look at the top down there, you see these little creatures. So what do you think they are?
Something to pull it up. Hold handles?
True, but what kind of creatures are they?
Oh.
These are rain drums. It's used for calling down rain.
Oh. Don't know, it looks very...
It's a frog. Yeah, correct. Frog, water. Okay, so that's rain drums for you. So these are definitely wealthy burial goods. This place you have Kuala Lumpur. Kuala Lumpur, we found all these boat burials. Okay, so within the boat burials, you also find things that tell us that they are not from here, especially the gemstones that was discovered buried together with artifacts like this, because these gemstones, the mineral do not exist in our country, so there's no way that they can be found here and used to create gemstones like this. But some of these things are normally found over in the southern part of India, so that tells us that the craftsmen from India probably brought in all these things, settled here, create the things, and then sold it to around the region. Sort of like setting up your manufacturing site closer to where your marketplace is, kind of thing. A lot of trade movements. So from this chart, you can see that the location where we are is very, very central, and it's between two big areas, the China place and the India place and the Middle East. So in the early days, most of the trade goods may travel more by land. So you've got the land Silk Road. But then there was a lot of problems from the Huns and things like that. So eventually the movement of trade moved from land to the seas. So between the land Silk Road and the sea Silk Road, the sea Silk Road is actually much more important, because ships can carry a much larger quantity of goods compared to the camels and the horses. You don't need to feed them. And also they arrive at the port. So once there, the goods can be easily distributed to all the traders around there. So that's why the Sea Silk Road is very much important. And the location where we are is very central to the movement of all these ships. So one of the places which serve as a very important site would be up north in Kedah in those early days. So when we talk about early civilization, um, we always refer to Borobudur or Angkor Wat as the earliest kingdoms and civilizations. But actually, the discoveries that we have made in this place called Bujang Valley tells us that this place is actually much more earlier. So this Bujang Valley civilization, in the early days of discovery, we date it to about the first AD. But eventually, discoveries push the date back to 300 plus or 500 BC. And the latest discoveries have pushed it to even earlier, to as early as maybe around 788 BC. So if you're not sure how early 700 plus BC is, it would be even earlier than the date when the Persian Empire was started. So you can imagine when the Persian Empire was started, this place was already in existence. And we're talking about Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great is like 300 plus BC, so it's even earlier than that. And one of the very important things about this particular place at Sungai Batu, which is where this archaeological site was found, is a lot of all these iron smelting facilities, port facilities, and it tells us that this place was a very major producer of iron, and it was actually exported out to very far away places like to Yemen, to China and all that. So a lot of research work is going on right now to try and see whether the chemical composition of artifacts during that period of time matches with the iron composition to here. So the possibility is high that it matches, and if all this confirmation can be made, that tells us that iron ore from here, 700 plus BC, 600 plus BC, was being exported to all these faraway places. So a lot of research is still going on, and they're trying to make Sungai Batu to be an archaeological tourism site up north. So,
Are you a historian? Are you a historian or?
no, I'm just only a person interested in what. So most of all this information comes from the guest speakers that we invite to give talks to the museum volunteers.
I see.
So basically, all of us are volunteers, and we do get talks from all these various researchers, archaeologists, and all that who are doing all these current things. So this date that I give to you, 788 BC, is still being researched, but we have been updated by the people who are working on the field that this is what they have managed to uncover so far via research.
Thank you for watching. We've come to the end of the first part of this 4-vlog series. As always, please click the like button, share and subscribe. Until next time, see ya.